Hello and welcome to the channel. Really glad to have you here. In today's video we are going to talk about the frequently asked questions that I get asked in regards to making bone broth. I have been making bone broth actively for the last 3.5 years. I've made it a complete regular part of my meal planning that I do either on a weekly or a monthly basis. My freezer is stocked with bone broth cubes that are frozen in silicone molds and then in individual Ziploc bags that have been comfortable for me and easy for me to use in any salty dish that requires water as a substitute for water. So absolutely amazing for example, boiling pasta, using in rice, using in soups and stews, and sometimes even when I feel the need for an immune boost, I do actively drink a mug of warm bone broth along with just some protein noodles, for example, and just really sip throughout the night on just some bone broth whenever I'm feeling like there's a flu or there's a cold coming in. It completely gets rid of it, and I find that it also helps to warm the body in the winter, and we are getting having quite a cold winter here in Finland. The temperature is very cold, about minus 20-25 it gets here, and even probably colder in the north. So one of the best things that I've used in order to make bone broth is I rely 90% of the time on lamb bone broth, and that's because that it has the bones that are very high in all the amino acids, all the vitamins and minerals, and also it has the bone marrow. So I find that lamb is much more cleaner and much more easier to just work with compared to, for example, sheep and cattle and goat. I do chicken bone broth and fish bone broth, but not as regular as lamb, because I just like the fact that the lamb bones have a lot of marrow in them. And when I do the chicken bones, I also like to include some either chicken feet or like a fatty based chicken quantity in there, like for example use a whole chicken and just cook it that way along with the broth ingredients that I have, just because I really like that extra I guess goodness, and also because I'm doing the keto diet, so I enjoy having some of the healthy fats as well incorporated into the bone broth. Another question was what sort of spices that I use. I completely rely on anti-inflammatory spices, natural, organic as much as possible. I use turmeric along with black pepper, which I've talked about in the previous video about how it really helps with the absorption of the active ingredient curcumin, really helps with the anti-inflammatory effects. I also use powdered ginger. Some herbs that I have on hand really work best. As you can see, we've got dried rosemary. We've also got fresh parsley. All these are optional. You can work with whatever herbs you find are great. I also like to use a slice of lemon or some black dried lemon, which we traditionally use in Iraq to spice and to give aroma as well as benefit nutritional value to dishes like these. Another question that I got recently was what do you usually use, what type of pot do you usually use to make bone broth? Well, I've relied on the stovetop usually to make bone broth, but I'd love to make it in a pressure cooker, and I sometimes make it in a slow cooker. With a pressure cooker, rather than cooking it for 8 to 12 hours, I tend to do it for about 4 to 6 hours, and it just works best. There's no difference in the taste as well as the aroma and the benefits of it. So I actually enjoy doing it in a pressure cooker. It's away from my stovetop. I've got limited space in my kitchen apartment here, so I find that the pressure cooker or the slow cooker works best. But this time around I'm doing it on a stovetop. As you can see, it's what I have on hand at the moment. So another question that I got was how often do you drink bone broth? I'm doing a keto diet right now, so I actually drink bone broth. I try to aim for once a day, just have a little mug of bone broth in the afternoon just after my last meal, and I actually find that it really helps with the digestion, it really helps with the absorption of the nutrients, and it just warms me up to get ready to go to sleep. And yeah, just find that it works best for me that way. As for the kids, how do I give them bone broth? Well, I usually like to incorporate it in any soup base that I do. So rather than using pre-prepared vegetable broth or any sort of chicken or meat broth, I'd opt in for bone broth. It's either the bone broth that I've stored in jars or the bone broth that I've put in silicone molds and placed and stored in the freezer, and I find that the freezer bone broth works absolutely best. I would rather much use the fresh, but the freezer silicone mold bone broth, absolutely amazing, and it's very flexible, and I can just take 1 or 2 pieces and place them in my dish and they're ready to go. So if you haven't tried bone broth, I really advise you, especially with the keto diet. It's really essential, and especially in the first stages of keto when you're really trying to get into ketosis and also have to prevent or cure the keto flu. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Do let me know if you're interested in more. I'd love to talk more about this topic. I've actually worked with bone broth for about 3.5 years, and I've incorporated it into my small business as well at one point in time. So if you want any tips and tricks, do let me know. Take care, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, like the video, and we'd love to have you on board. All the best. Bye bye.